All right, it's a good place to start here, even on the title slide. So 36% of Ohioans know about it, about 988. Many more. We were up about 86% said it was a necessary resource in Ohio that they would support funding to make sure that it exists for Ohioans. So as we look at what 988 is doing, I'm going to share some things that you're very, very familiar with, and I'll spend less time on these, and then I'll dive down into some of the data. When we do a presentation, we don't want to assume that people have a full knowledge of 988, even if they've heard of the three-digit number. But we also want people to understand that it is for mental health crisis as well as suicide risk. 988, of course, is the three-digit number that came out of the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, the 1-800 number. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline was primarily focused on suicide, although it also did help with mental health crisis. But now, by design and intentionality, 988 is specifically for mental health crisis, including suicide risk. So when we look at these mental health crisis risk factors, what we know is that many people experience this. So oftentimes there's this misconception that 988 is for those people, those that might have a mental health diagnosis or have received mental health services in the past. Indeed, it is for everybody, because we don't plan when a mental health crisis will occur. Mental health crisis can occur in anybody's life at any moment. So the fact that you would know this number would have you prepared for if and when a mental health situation arises. So these factors are common to all people. And that's just something that we want to continue to convey, is that 988 truly should be known by all people. So it is that three-digit number. We are continuing to work on not just that it is a three-digit number for mental health and suicide risk, but that it is free, that it is confidential, that it's available 24/7. So those are all very important factors to 988, but also that there is more than one way to reach out to 988. You can reach out through calling, dialing 988 on a telephone. You can reach out by texting directly to 988. If you put that in your text line on 2, just those 3 numbers, it'll tap into the 988 text platform and connect you with somebody to respond to you via text. And then our chat function, 988lifeline.org, that is a website, but fortunately our devices, our telephones, are smart devices. Most people have those, and you can access even the chat function from your phone or any other web browser that you would have access to. So call, chat, and text. And we'll look at the data on how those are being used, which one's the most popular. Think right now, I'll ask you a trivia question when we get there. Which is the most popular, chat, text, or calling 988? So what do you get when you contact 988? Well, there is a trained call specialist who is going to help people through mental health crisis. That is defined by the person. So there is no like, well, you're not experiencing a real mental health crisis, we're going to hang up on you now. We talk to any individual who contacts 988. Thoughts of suicide, obviously one of the reasons people contact 988, but also as broad as substance use, as well as any other type of emotional distress. And one of the big markets of people, targets that we cover, are people calling on behalf of somebody else. We oftentimes get a call from a parent or a loved one saying, hey, my spouse, my child is showing these signs, these symptoms. What can I do to help? And so we are happy to provide that person with some resources and talk through what they may be able to do to assist. I'm going to play a real quick video. This video is from a call center perspective, from a call specialist, and what they can provide when somebody calls 988. Then we'll jump back into some conversation.
Anyone can call 988. When they call, they will get the greeting, the message, and then after that, you'll get a kind person to pick up. Right off the bat, we want you to know that we're here to support you and we're here to help.
You're not talking to an automated system. You're talking to someone that can actively be with you in that moment.
You know, what in this moment do you need? Is it a friend to talk to? Is it just someone to sit with you in the chaos that's happening? Or is it, do you need services? Do you need a therapist? Do you need a psychiatrist? How can we get you those services right now?
I'm a big advocate for doing breathing exercises over the phone so that someone hears me. They know that I'm with you, I'm going to laugh with you, I'm going to joke with you.
By the end of the chat, I've gotten them to laugh. I've gotten them to be like, okay, I can figure out what to do from here.
people that watch this should know that there is somewhere they can go. There are people they can reach out to whenever they need. It's safe.
Anyone can.
Hold on one moment.
Anyone can.
All right, before I go to the next slide, I'm going to ask that question to the audience. It's not a poll. It's not fancy. It doesn't allow you to click one of the answers. But if anybody would like to unmute, raise their hand, provide an answer in the chat. Which is the most popular, calls, chats, or texts for 988?
I would guess calls.
Nathan guesses calls. Does anybody second his guess? I'm putting people on the spot, asking them to interact.
I would go with texting myself.
Brent, ooh, I like it. I like it. We have two different answers. That's what I was hoping for. Let's see who is closest as we go through these next three slides. So calls right now for Ohioans. We're looking at Ohio data. What is Ohio's usage of 988? Calls are getting close to about 9,000 calls on average per month coming in from Ohioans to Ohio 988 call centers. So 9,000 calls. That includes callers who are accessing 988, the veteran line that's there. So there's three different options currently available to people. If they want to go into a specialized call center, that would be for veterans. Spanish speaking is option number 2. We actually have option number 3 as well. It's LGBTQ. And so included in all of those, as well as the general lines, about 9,000 calls per month coming in. Our speed to answer rate is anywhere from, we were at 19 seconds. We're between 20 to 25 seconds right now as our volume continues to increase. Let me put that in perspective of how long it takes for somebody to pick up the phone. That's about 3 to 4 telephone rings. So as you're imagining somebody in crisis holding the phone to their ear, 3 to 4 telephone rings, and somebody is picking up to respond. That's on average. That is much quicker than the national average. So we're very proud that our workforce in Ohio has been able to respond as quick as they are, although the national average is still very good as well, 35 seconds. But also Ohio has a system built in of redundancy. So we have 19 call centers. If the primary call center cannot answer the phone, a backup call center is then where the call goes to. And if the backup call center can't answer it, then it goes to a statewide backup before it rolls over out of state to a national backup call center. Only about 1% of our calls are rolling over out of state. So very proud at answering calls for Ohioans in Ohio. Now this kind of answers the question on which is the most popular. Nate, you are correct. Calls is the most popular. Brent, you are not far off though. By numbers you are, but texts are so important to us. We're seeing about over 2,000 texts per month, additionally over 2,000 chats per month being placed by Ohioans into the 988 system. Texts are so important because we want to make sure that we are really providing choice to people to communicate through their preferred way of communicating. So chats and texts both available. Chats is becoming very popular as well. You can see they're almost equal here. That was a little bit of a surprise to us. We thought that people might not take the extra step to go to a browser, but indeed they are. What we're finding though, and it's kind of anecdotal to us, but very important as we get feedback from our text and chat takers. Some of our texts that are coming in are from youth. Not surprised there that youth would be a primary user. But even some of the use of that, we've had some what I would call non-emergency type texts that are coming in, meaning the person is not in crisis, but they're reaching out to talk. And through that demographic of younger texters, because they are using it as a way to show their group, their friend group, that they have somebody to text. Because they don't have a friend or family member maybe that's reaching out to them, that's making their phone have a notification go off that they're interacting with somebody, and they've reached out to 988 really more out of a loneliness or showing that they have somebody involved in their lives. And we found that to be very interesting. That's not the most popular use of it, but to hear that youth are doing that was a surprise to us. We didn't imagine it being used that way. Some may say, well, is that really a crisis? I would say if that person is mentally affected by the lack of interaction with others and we can provide an interaction with that person, then we have helped that person. So it is a different type of a crisis, but we are certainly involved in that level as well. So our vision fits into the bigger crisis continuum. 988 is not where things stop in Ohio. We are working with our stakeholders, our providers, our partners throughout the state to build the ideal crisis continuum. So if somebody contacts 988, about 80% of the calls are resolved on, or contacts, calls, chats, texts, are resolved on that platform of call, chat, or text. But sometimes more is needed. That's where mobile crisis response fits into place, somebody to show up where that person is at. From there, there still might be a higher need. Stabilization centers prove to be very, very important. So someplace to go. And then, of course, returning back to where that person lives or thrives and having the supports needed to have a successful life where they're at. So employment, transportation, healthcare, those types of things. We know that people will come back into this continuum, starting again with Connect. That's okay. We do have frequent callers, chatters, texters. We know that we can help them by just touching base with them and having them touch base with us. So looking forward, here is where we're at, and this is really important for you. What can you be doing with us? We are creating awareness campaigns. So we're working, some might call it a marketing campaign, some would call it awareness. The reason I say awareness is because our primary goal is to make people aware that 988 exists, what it is. From there, we also want people to trust that it is a resource that they have available to them and that they could use it. So that trust comes through positive encounters with it, stories of others having positive encounters with it. So we are doing research to develop marketing that would be relatable to all Ohioans. We know that not all Ohioans fit one demographic. So we really want to speak the message of 988 awareness to every Ohioan. So we are doing the research to develop that creative content and reach all people. We are going to make that shareable, which means that you'll be able to download that information, print that information locally, even co-brand it, putting your information on there, whether you're an Adamus board, a provider, Neomed, you could put your logo on there and say, we also support, believe, know that 988 is a resource and that you're giving it out to people that you serve. And that unified co-branding speaks a better message because they're familiar with you in their own community. They've seen your provider name, your county board name. They know who you are. And so when you say, Neomed wants you to know about 988, or the county board wants you to know about 988, that speaks a much, much different message than OMAS alone saying, we want you to know about 988. So this QR code will actually take you to our 988 page. Our resource page is located there. You'll be able to download currently social media shareables, but we are continuing to add content literally weekly. We've developed something new for a different audience, different market, and we place it on here. But once we receive the full breadth of creative material, it'll all be on this page as well and made available. And we will really do a big communication to all of our stakeholders saying, please go here, start to download the information, put your information onto it, co-brand it, and then look at how you distribute that, whether it's through digital platforms, all the way up to billboards, local media, whatever it is. So with that, I am going to pause and open it up to conversation. The conversation is where the value's at, so happy to hear from you. Also know that email address you see comes to me, as well as 2 other teammates. There's 3 staff people working on 988 here through the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. So it comes to all 3 of us, and we will respond back and help you get what you need as you're working to make this a resource in your area. So I'll open it up.